We've been doing a long-term test of the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek, and we've been really excited to get it into comparison with one of its key competitors. Behind us here, we've got it up against the 2024 Hyundai Kona.
This highly anticipated comparison will center around which vehicle is more practical, has more features, and is more affordable. So, let's get started. All right, so let's start off with the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek. The model that we have here today is the Onyx Edition, which is just somewhere in the middle of the trim lineup. There's a fairly affordable model which has a 2-liter engine, but the Onyx Edition I think is the most affordable version you can get with the 2.5-liter engine, right?
Yep.
And that has 180 something horsepower, which sounds good on paper, but actually, honestly, I don't think it feels that great. It doesn't feel like a faster car in any way or form. This is the engine the Crosstrek should have had from the get-go.
But you know, a lot of people complain about stuff like that. It's not like meant to be a sporty car anyway, right? So I mean, I don't mind it. I think like if you're using it to like, I don't know, drop your kids to school or whatever, are they gonna, well, that's a lie. My kids often tell me that the car is running out of gas because I'm driving slow, so.
But in reality, because of the CVT, I find that the Crosstrek is actually way more fuel efficient than the Kona.
It is, but it really depends on how you're driving it as well, because I know when Clayton did a road trip in the Crosstrek, he was getting numbers in the 6s. I don't know how.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know how, because ever since then, mine have been pretty much above 8.
Okay, well, we are also driving in colder weather conditions than him,
true.
Maybe on some winter tires. But the reality is when we're comparing it to the Kona, I can't get good fuel economy in the Kona at all.
Yeah, the Kona's got an average in there of roughly about 9.2, I think. And
yeah.
It's pretty much stayed there.
Yeah, and that's like a whole liter more than this per 100 kilometers. The other thing about the engine is that in order to actually get anywhere in a hurry and use that 180 horsepower, you gotta put your foot right into it, and the moment you do that, the car becomes so loud. Like, refinement just clearly wasn't a priority for Subaru in this car.
No, and there are a couple other things that don't feel like they were a priority. Like they're kind of just shoved into your put together, or like maybe used from like another model or another, you know, other things in their lineup. Whereas the Kona is a lot different. Like you can see there were very thought out processes as they were putting things together.
Yeah, it feels unique, I think is the most important thing to say about the interior of the Kona. But honestly, the ride quality in this car is pretty good. Like I said, you can just hear a little bit too much in my opinion. I think the Kona is a tiny bit quieter, but the ride quality is good. Doesn't bounce too hard, it's not too stiff.
I know ground clearance is generally for like when you're off-roading and stuff like that, but in the Crosstrek, we've got 220 millimeters of ground clearance in here.
Which is about 10 millimeters more than in the Kona.
Exactly. And sometimes like you think it's such a mild difference, but I can tell the difference when my kids get in and out of the car.
Oh yeah?
And have like a slightly bigger step to take, or like have to hop out a bit because like it's a little bit higher, but it makes a difference.
Well, now that we're talking about getting the kids in here or even yourself in here, we can mention that the interior of this car is average. It feels okay. It's nothing too spacious, but it's nothing that that you're gonna complain too much about either.
It won't, yeah, you won't complain for an average crossover, especially if you've got 1 or 2 kids. I've complained because I have 3, and with a big car seat in here, there's not much space for the other 2, and they fight a lot. Every time I make a turn, somebody's shoulder is touching someone, or someone's angry about someone being too close to the other. But it's not meant to be a car with 3 kids in the back. You might as well just, you know, get a minivan. In the Kona, there's a bit more space, which we'll see when we get into the Kona and drive around in there.
Ooh.
Oh, are they gonna move?
They might. We can also just turn around.
They're just literally not moving.
They're gonna move. Did I kill one? No.
I think you would have felt it.
I don't know about that.
I might have caught one underneath for a bit, but...
Sorry about that.
But speaking to that little detour...
Yes?
you know, you get what you pay for. And like, even though both these cars are pretty affordable, it's not the surround camera that you might be used to in like the bigger SUVs. Like, you can't see what you're doing in the front or all the time. You just get a little beep here and there to let you know that you're close to things.
Actually, I find the frontward visibility to be kind of pinched because of the eyesight system. I don't know if that's the same depending on how high or how low you get the driver's seat, but I find that this system kind of like interferes with your forward visibility, and that's kind of a pain.
Yeah.
I think you've also mentioned that in the morning, maybe if there's some frost on the sensors or covering the cameras, suddenly eyesight's not working for the first short while.
Yeah, I guess it's because we've been doing a long-term test of this too, so we've had a few mornings where it's been getting cold and everything's just sort of frosty, and I turn the car on and it says eyesight is not available, and then it tells you all the different things that you can't use because eyesight is unavailable. And I mean, it sucks, but you could always just start your car a bit earlier and then...
Or warm it up, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, and then once you get out, it should be fine, because within a few minutes of driving, everything turns back on. And the same thing happened in the Kona this morning, because it was snowing, and I guess there's a bit of fog and everything blocking those sensors, and yeah, the same thing happened in there as well. The Crosstrek starts at just over $30,000, but this Onyx trim is a little bit higher. The one we're in is about $36,572, but you can get up a little bit past 40 if you want the Wilderness trim.
And I think we've got everything we need for that 36,000, which I mean, we've got heated seats, we've got a heated steering wheel, we've got wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is handy.
You're right. The only thing I will say is that it's a little bit cheaper, so you can't really argue with everything, but the screen is a bit laggy. When I jump into the car, I want it to connect to Auto CarPlay right away. And I guess that's like
it takes so long. Yeah. What's it doing?
I don't know. And like, I can drive down the street for a few minutes and it's not connected yet. And I'm like sitting there waiting, and my kids are like, "Can you play a song?" And I'm like, "No, I can't," because like I really can't yet.
Yeah, I know exactly what that's like. And I'm like, "When is it?" And then suddenly it just switches and your song is blaring and you're like, "What the?"
Yeah. And I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's kind of like first world problem kind of thing, because, you know, it's just CarPlay.
But come on, what is it really doing in that time?
What are you looking for? We're already connected.
we're already pals here.
Yeah. And then you try and change a song, and I've had this happen a couple times, and you press it and it doesn't actually press, and that's annoying.
And you're like, did I press it? Did I press the wrong button?
Did I not press it hard enough? Like, do you want me to like dig into the screen a little bit more? But it's still like, again, not the worst. I don't know.
Then you press it twice and you skip the song twice. It's the worst.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lag to it.
Well, I will admit, I do like the amount of, there's like physical buttons as well. There's like knobs for the volume and tuning, as well as for temperature controls. But then having the temperature controls having physical buttons, and then the fan controls not having physical buttons, you're like,
it's a little awkward.
You're halfway there, right?
Yeah, it's a little awkward, but at least it's easy to use. Like, even to press this button on the screen to bring up all of your controls, it's like simple. There's all the buttons right there for you, and you can see it. Once you've like done it a few times, you know how to use it. So.
All right, let's jump into the Kona and see how it compares.
Okay. Okay, as I pull out, can we just start by saying how much I hate this shifter?
Yeah. Let's start exactly with that.
I hate this shifter.
We're jumping in this car immediately, and we hate that part. That's probably the biggest problem I have with the car.
It really is. Well, no, okay, it is the biggest, but a very close second is that there's no automatic seats. It's only because I'm really short, and my husband is really tall. Well, everybody's really tall compared to me, but like the difference of like having to like pump it up or push it down and back, and then like it's just so much easier now that
you're doing like the whole hokey pokey in your car, and you're up and down.
I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. The gear shifter is not a deal breaker. It's just annoying.
You have to get used to it.
Yeah. And I would say if this is a second car, then it's probably mainly used by one person. So I guess the manual seats aren't a deal breaker either, but they're not a deal breaker.
No, I agree with you. And I mean, this is like a top trim model. This is the N-Line model with the ultimate package. And so I think N-Line is supposed to be their sporty trim. And as you can see, we've got like red accents and this Alcantara-like seats here, although it says it on the airbag tag, which is very interesting. And it's a pretty, honestly, I find it to be a fairly attractive looking car. I think it's caught a lot of eyes, which is pretty interesting for an economy car, right?
Yeah.
Like people are taking a look at it, and that really cool, sleek headlight design in the front and in the rear. I think it works.
And it is like a little bit better of a looker than the Crosstrek, even though the Crosstrek we've talked about looks like a mini Outback. It seems a little bit more thought out.
Right.
It's not a mini anything really. It's its own car.
Its own thing.
Yeah.
And you can really tell that in the car, in the cabin, when you've got all of these buttons. It's not like reusing the same panel that you'd find, like the Subaru one looks like it's the same Subaru you'd find in any other Subaru you can drive. Here we've got all the buttons you need, all the knobs you need. It's fairly easy to get used to and acquainted with. And I find using the car to be pretty simple. And I think the infotainment system looks great. And in addition to that, this model also has a digital gauge cluster, which I think it looks really smart.
Yeah, it's simple and everything is clearly shown right there. The Crosstrek is a little bit, I don't want to say complicated, but maybe a little more cluttered. This one is just really simple. Everything is right there. And same with this infotainment system. Like, it's really simple to use, and there's like buttons everywhere. And I love buttons. I hate when everything's touchscreen and you have to, like, there's less to complain about. Oh, we also don't have to complain about the syncing. Like, you get in the car and it syncs to your thing right away.
Yeah, immediately. You don't have to, pause and figure out if you brought your phone to the car, or if the cable working properly, or whatever it is. I mentioned that this is the N-Line model with the Ultimate package, and as a result, this car with all-wheel drive is $41,000, just over $41,000. Now, you can get a Kona for around $28,000, but that is a fairly bare-bones model with front-wheel drive, so I think buyers have to be aware of that. The Subaru comes with all-wheel drive no matter what trim you get. And under the hood of this is a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that makes 190 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. And I honestly think that this motor feels a little bit more responsive, especially in action, like on the highway, than the Crosstrek, which can sometimes feel like passing power is the main problem that I have with the Crosstrek.
This one's a little zippier.
Yeah, and the Crosstrek feels really like responsive off the line, but once you need to actually get, passing someone on the highway, I find then it's kind of a dud. But as we mentioned in the Crosstrek, the Kona does have a fairly a significant issue with fuel efficiency. We're getting about 9 liters per 100 kilometers, which I don't think is, I mean, it's on par for what it's rated for, but it's not particularly great. But if you look past the fuel efficiency, you'll probably notice that this car is really spacious compared to the Crosstrek.
Yeah.
That caught me off guard entirely, because the outgoing Kona was actually kind of small, and this model has a ton of cargo space. More cargo space than the Crosstrek. I think that's a big win.
It is. I haven't driven the Kona before for like an actual review because I couldn't fit all 3 of my kids in it.
Well, this car has, when you fold down the rear seats, it has just around 1,800 liters of cargo space, which is huge.
Yeah.
And even when you have those seats up, I find it pretty spacious back there. I'm able to put a rear-facing car seat, like a baby seat, behind this seat and sit fairly comfortably up here, which can't be said about a lot of cars.
It really can't. And I have the forward-facing ones, and my daughter's issue is always that like she's kicking the back of the seat, and there is still a little bit of space here. She's still kicking it, but her feet are like just barely.
Oh, she can get an extra. She can get some more swing into those kicks.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the one other thing I like about the Hyundais, like, when you turn any of the things, like whether it's the wipers or the lights or whatever, as you turn it, you see like a little thing pop up there on the dash.
Every car should have that.
Yeah.
Every car.
Just so you know that you did it.
Or like, turned it on.
Yeah. Or like which level you're on, because now I know I don't want to be in low, I want to be in high, and like it makes so much sense. It's just like a small little detail to help you. I don't care where it is. It could be on this screen, like.
No, I agree. I think that's super smart.
Yeah. There's like a hole here.
Yeah, this is not like enclosed.
Yeah.
I think I actually like the open space. I like being able to just chuck stuff in there, but you're right. If you live in a space where people are checking your car for goodies.
I kind of like that I have that closed space so people don't see all the like extra nonsense that I shove in there, like baby wipes and bags.
Well, are you ashamed of the baby wipes? What's the problem?
Well, they just have their own space.
I mean, I like the shelves here and then over here. I think it works okay. But yeah, it depends on what you're into.
Also, I can hide toys.
You're always hiding toys. What's the deal with that? People want to play with the toys. The kids want to play with the toys. You said that it's kind of nimble. feeling,
yeah,
right?
it's quicker. It feels a little quicker than the other one. It's a little smoother, a little, I don't want to say easier to drive. It almost feels like slipperier,
Okay.
but not in a bad way. Like, I don't feel like I'm gonna slide on ice
It's
or
fun.
anything. Yeah, it feels more sporty.
I agree with that. I think I agree with that entirely, because I mentioned the Crosstrek is very smooth and very comfortable, but like feedback isn't quite there compared to the Kona. You can feel everything in this car in a good way. You know where the wheels are pointing.
Yeah,
You know?
the Crosstrek almost drives like it's a little bit heavier than
Yeah,
it is.
I agree with you entirely. But I think after driving both of these vehicles, I think it's clear which one I would take.
Yeah, especially if you're driving them back to back like we have been. I think like when I was in the Crosstrek and just the Crosstrek, I thought it was a fairly decent car, and then you jump into the Kona and, you know, got a bit of a different vibe.
Well, I do think that these two are among the best in the class. After driving these two crossovers, it's clear they're both fairly affordable and they're easy to live with. But one of these crossovers has a longer list of things we appreciate, and for us, it's the Hyundai Kona.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. It's the Hyundai Kona that takes the win for this one. For Driving.ca, I'm Renita Narain.
And I'm Sammy Hajasad.
For more news and reviews, follow us on Driving.ca or check out our socials.